Conflicts of interest, especially those which are material, must be addressed in the best interest of the client. Your interests as an advisor and the interests of your firm must take a backseat to the interests of your clients, even if it means giving up business or compensation opportunities. There are generally three ways in which conflicts of interest can be addressed: avoidance, control, and disclosure, or some combination of these three. Avoidance is exactly as it sounds, avoiding conflicts entirely if they cannot be managed or controlled in other ways. Control, by recognizing that acceptable conflicts exist, but with appropriate safeguards in place that protect the interests of the clients. And disclosure of acceptable conflicts or perceived conflicts for which clients should be aware and informed. In an ideal scenario, all conflicts of interest would be avoided. For example, if your spouse works for a publicly traded company and is privy to insider information, it would create a real and material conflict of interest if you recommended that company as an investment to your clients. You can address that conflict by acknowledging that it exists and avoid it by indicating that you will not advise or recommend that particular investment to clients. Of course, it's neither practical nor required to avoid all conflicts of interest if they can be controlled by implementing certain restrictions or guidelines that maintain a client's best interest. For example, advisors may receive gifts from third-party entities, such as fund companies, which can create a material conflict if it influences the type of investments the advisor recommends to the clients. And while this could be avoided by implementing rules prohibiting advisors from accepting any third-party gifts, a more practical way to control for this conflict is to impose certain dollar limits on the value of these gifts to $200 or $100, for example. Third-party gifts and benefits have been something that has evolved extensively over the years. Companies offering advisors travel experiences, dinners at five-star restaurants, gift cards, and tickets to major sporting events had been commonplace for many years. One company reportedly spent more than $2 million on a conference for advisors in Beverly Hills, California, which included a party in a Beverly Hills mansion, golf outings, wine tasting, movie studio tours, gifts of champagne and jewelry from Tiffany's. Now, that's an extreme case of third-party compensation, and the regulators had ultimately determined that the company had exceeded the regulatory rules on compensation. But compensation, in reasonable and appropriate amounts, is a necessary part of the financial services industry. Advisors need to be compensated for the work and services they provide to their clients, even if compensation is an inherent conflict of interest, particularly in cases where advisors are compensated not by the clients directly, but by a third party, such as an investment manufacturer. In this case, the conflict of interest of compensation by a third party is addressed by disclosure. We receive compensation from securities issuers and other third parties based on their products we sell you. And the fundamental control here is disclosure. We will disclose to you the situations and type of third-party compensation we may receive. Now, it's worth pointing out something that the regulators are very quick to point out. Disclosure of conflicts doesn't necessarily mean you have addressed the conflict in the best interest of the client. Yes, many reasonable conflicts can be appropriately addressed simply by disclosure, but all conflicts of interest cannot be sufficiently addressed by disclosure alone. So, to recap, conflicts of interest must be addressed in the best interest of the client, either by avoiding them entirely, using controls and safeguards, or by disclosure if it sufficiently addresses the conflict. If a conflict is not sufficiently controlled to mitigate its effects, it can be avoided until it can be properly controlled. And if there is no way to control for a conflict of interest, it must be avoided, even if it means foregoing business or compensation opportunities.